Um, Yep, no paths. You can use paths. There's a lot of things. There's swim diagrams. There's this stuff. Like I say, it's a couple of courses worth to just to know the basic diagramming. Really, I just want you to go through a logical process, because what happens if people do not go through a logical process? I usually get a mess at the end, and they're panicking, and I'm trying to avoid people panicking and getting into a mess. Okay, so we could do, let's just do one or more of these, just it's a little more elaborate. So I could say employee uh, schedule client. Um, no, I do want to take it a little bit further, so let's not do that. Okay, so you can see here, when the employee logs in, that we have the ability now to build a little flowchart for employee login. Okay, right? Yes and no paths, exactly. So we can turn that into a flowchart. So those of you that are, maybe have done things differently, hopefully you can start to see how what you did is probably similar to what I did. You just aren't using my thought processes, and also, I've been doing this for so long; these are second nature to me. Okay, um, so you can build those diagrams, and uh, then what you can start to do from this is, okay, we'll say I did employee login and I did all my use cases, and I come up with a flow for those. Then what I can start to do is I can start to think about, how do I glue all of these little flow charts together? So there's going to be at some point where you start to deal with the general flow of the program. Okay, and I don't know if I can put flow charts into this. Let me see if I can pop Visio open here real quick. Um, Studio Tools. I don't know where I hid Visio here. Just a moment. Okay, so if I want to draw something that looks a little more like a flow chart, as soon as Visio decides to pop up. Okay, blank drawing, we'll say. I'll make this a little smaller so I can see all of you. Like this. And so what I can do is I can start to think, let's think in terms of the screens that we're going to have in this, okay? And we can just think in terms that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a flow or a path, okay? So let's say, I'm going to shape, let me just give just a block. One problem with Visio is it can have so many different versions of the same shape that takes it a while to come back. So we'll just say this. So we'll just, well, it's not the best, but we'll use it for tonight. Okay. So we could say login screen, and so I'll say login screen. All right. So this is a different type of flowchart. So I'm going to say the first thing that's going to happen, and let me see if I can make this bigger. So you make that a little bigger. Right. You can do this without drawing. Absolutely. You can do this in a lot of different ways. Um, what I'm doing is I'm kind of limited in what I can do. I do have a drawing tablet. I can see if I can try to hook that up next time and see if that helps. So this may be where we start. So maybe I'll just put a little circle here that says, okay, this is where the program starts. And the first thing that happens is, we could put a little arrow on here if I can find the arrows here. Um, okay, containers, callouts, designs. I'm trying to do this without having to bring up any more of these. Okay, we'll use this one, connector. So we can say, I'm going to grab this connector, and we'll say, alright, so the first thing that happens is we go from the start point of the program where it starts, and I want to say, alright, okay, I'm not going to get that fancy, I'm just going to leave it as it is, I guess. It's going to take a while to do it that way. So we go from the start, and the first thing that they see is a login screen, okay? And then in the login screen, if it's unsuccessful, we could put a line from here to here that says Login failed. Yes. You could put error screen. Okay, and
Welcome to AnyMeeting. Your line is unmuted.
hey, hello folks. I just crashed again here. I'm going to try to share my screen again. It's like AnyMeeting's having a nervous breakdown tonight. Okay, can everybody see me again? Okay, alright, good. Alright, so I've created the error screen, and obviously this is going to connect right back here. Normally I'd make little arrows here, but I don't seem to have arrows available. So this would loop back over to the login screen because there was an error. Hey, you logged in the wrong way. If you logged in the correct way, then we'd say we'd go to something else, like, I'm just going to keep copying this and just changing the names on it. Okay. So login screen, this will maybe be the scheduling screen. So that'll be the first thing that somebody logs into. Okay. And then we could continue on to the scheduling screen may have a menu on it, and that menu may take you to the inventory screen, to whatever. Okay. All right. So is everybody kind of getting what I'm trying to do here?
Yes, I have a question.
Yep.
I was thinking a little farther with employees such as vacation time or
Yep.
termination or sick.
N-
How would we be able to, or we don't need to go that
no,
far in detail?
don't go that far. Okay. Employees, if you have, like, an employee, a first name, last name, and employee ID, I think just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
what you're talking about is one of the classic problems in software development. It's called scope creep.
Okay.
Okay, so something that looks
Mm-hmm.
simple becomes a nightmare because you can keep adding and adding and adding. And I've worked on these types of systems. And for example, even for something small, you can have hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and we certainly don't want to go there. Okay, so just something to show that we have an employee class. We get a first name, a last name, an ID. I mean, if you want to put in a date of birth or an address, that's fine too. Okay, but just don't take it too far.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So what I've done here is I've said,
Okay.
okay, now I can start drawing out how the kind of the screens all flow together, and that will help you a lot. What I can do from this is I could go and I say, all right, I want to create a diagram that actually builds the screens. Now, some of you may want to actually do GUI screens, so graphical screens. Some of you may just want to use the console screens like we've been doing for some of the homeworks, and that's completely your choice. It's left up to you. Okay, but what you could do from here is you could actually draw these screens using Visio. You could do them by hand or whatever, so that you have an understanding of what they're going to look like, because that will help you when you start to format your code to present your screens. Okay. All right, so that's another step you could do here as far as your blueprinting. From there, what you can do, for example, is you can start to work on pseudocode. Now, I know we've kind of talked about pseudocode a little bit, so I'm just going to pop out of this screen here, and I'm going to go back, and I'm just putting this all in one document this way, just because it's easier for you to see it, and I'm kind of using limited real estate here. So, okay, so let's say I was going to do some pseudocode. Well, let's say we're going to pseudocode the, let's see, let's pick something easy here, time clock class. Okay. Okay, so let's pseudocode the time clock class. And we can start with a very, very high level type of pseudocode, and this is just in really just English. Okay, if you've never worked in pseudocode, there are some formal types. I just want you to think about it. Okay, so we're going to say, let's do this. We'll say it checks to see if employee is already clocked in. If not, clock the employee in. Let's say clocked in. Let's do it this way. If no, clock in. If yes, clock out. Okay. Alright, so we can start to build the logic of what this particular class is going to do. We could expand this a little bit, and we could say, and just put a little note up here. It says accepts, and let's see if I can spell in English here. Accepts employee ID, current date, and time as inputs. Okay, so these are things that the time clock class needs in order to do the clocking in and clocking out. Okay, so what I've done here is I've started to think about clocking in and clocking out. Okay, well, I haven't written any code, and that's good, because I could think, well, you know what, if employees already clocked in, check to see if employees are clocked in. If no, clock them out. If they're already clocked in. If they're not, then we clock them in. Okay, that's easy. But if they are, clock them out. And I can say, well, wait a minute. What if I look in there and I see that the employee has already clocked out today, but they're trying to come back in again? Well, maybe they work 2 shifts in the same day. So without having to go back and fix a bunch of code, what I'm doing now is I'm fixing my code and fixing the logic before I ever write it. So I can say, okay, I can put myself a little note. What if the employee already clocked out today? Maybe it's a second shift. So then what I can do is I can modify this if logic, this if-else logic, in such a way as to account for that. Okay? So I could say if, so I want to put a little note here, so I'm just going to change the color on this, and kind of trying to find a way to keep this legible on the fly for you. Alright, and so that's going to be the old way, and so this is a new way, and I'll put it in black here. So I'll go back to black, and I'll say if yes, and the employee has already clocked out, then this is a second shift. Second shift, so clock them in.